Right, now we're going to look at post 2. Post 2 is the section where you're probably going to have most of your referencing, most of the actual theoretical background or legislative background or practice background that you will draw upon will be included in section 2. Post 2 basically says research theoretical background into the training. So when you're researching the theoretical background, what you research will actually depend completely on the type of training that you have done. Okay? So you research theoretical background. Now, if you have been on a detailed training course, such as effective use of praise, which is one of our examples, or the observing and assessing module, part of your training materials, part of the handouts or whatever you were given, will give you some idea of the kind of references that you're going to draw upon and some of the information that you're going to draw upon. And it might be some research evidence, it might be some best practice guidance, it might be some theorists, it might be the EYFS. So whatever the theory that you're going to draw on very much depends on it. So for example, if you were doing something practical, such as first aid, you'll be looking very much at the legislative background to first aid training. Okay? You'll be looking at things like the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive website. You'll be looking at welfare requirements. And you'll be looking at evidence about the legal requirements for first aiders in businesses, and some of the information about how important it is to access medical help within the first hour of an accident, etc., etc. You might also be looking at theory. If you are doing one of the more detailed things, such as observing and assessing, you'd be looking at some of the theory about, for example, how the most effective settings use observations to plan from the interests of children. So you might be looking at the EYFS again, you would be looking at the evidence of best practice, things like REPI, and other research evidence that you've been given about observation and assessment. If you're looking at something like effective use of praise, you might be drawing on some of the psychological evidence that you might have access to about how important it is for people to take an interest in you, not just make indiscriminate and meaningless comments, but to make purposeful comments, etc. So what I'm sort of trying to convey really is that you can draw on a very, very, very wide range of types of evidence for this. What you will draw on depends on what the training course has been, because if you've done something practical, the types of evidence that you're going to draw on is going to be very, very different to something academic that you've done or theoretical. If you've done something on speech and language development, then you're obviously going to be looking at some developmental psychology. You might be drawing on some theory like Chomsky or Bruner or even Skinner, as well as some of the government reports on language development, communication, the EYF, etc. It doesn't matter what that body of evidence is, it is whether or not it's relevant. And then what you can just finish this post up with is your discussion, your thoughts about how your new understanding and knowledge has impacted on your practice. Because actually understanding things does make us practice differently. So you can be told to do something and you think, yes, that's a good idea, but actually you're not motivated in the same way as if you really, really understand it from underneath and have that real drive to improve standards. And I think that thing about being motivated and understanding the reasons for it changes the sort of your practice in terms of it being consistent and affecting other areas and things, not just the very specific tasks that you've been given. So that could be something to reflect upon briefly there as well. And that's all I've got to say about post 2.